like and subscribe, or these gigantic ants will bite you to death. Welcome to Animals Wow TV. Today we'll look at the top 10 onslaughts of ants that devoured an animal. Stay until number 1 to find out what makes ants such a threat to animals that are bigger than them. Number 10. Ants attack struggling mice. Even if it's not as great as the first movies, if you're a fan of Indiana Jones, you must have watched The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. One of the most memorable scenes in the movie is this. Yep, the scene where the villain is getting swarmed, bitten, eaten, and pulled into an anthill is a pure Indiana Jones what the heck is happening moment. The ants wreaking mayhem in that scene is called Siafu, or African driver ants. Siafu is just one of the 12,000 species of ants all over the world. It's supposed to be the only ant species that could potentially devour an entire human. So the movie sorta got that bit right. Unlike in the movie though, ants don't bring their prey into their nests. What they do is swarm and eat their targets where they find them, sorta like what these ants are doing to this mouse. Even though the mouse tries to struggle or escape, the ants continue to attack it. Oh, by the way, did you know that ants got their name from the Old English word emeti, which later became empty? It means the biter off. The bullet ant is said to have the most painful bite in the world, which people compare to being hit by, well, a bullet. These ants aren't bullet ants, but you can see how much pain they inflict on their victims. Even if a second mouse is dropped near their nest, they don't let up on their first victim. The two mice twitch horribly as they are eaten alive. Number 9. Ants turn frog into bones. Ants have 2 stomachs. Yep, you heard that right. They may not have ears or lungs, but they have space for 2 stomachs in their tiny bodies. One stomach digests the food they've eaten. The other one holds food which they will later share with those who stay in the nest, like other worker ants, or males, or the queen. This process of sharing food is called trophallaxis. It's one proof of how efficient an ant colony can be. Each ant has a role and they'll perform their roles to the fullest. Those who don't forage can still eat, and those who go out get a nest that keeps them safe during bad weather. So, even though this fat frog seems like a lot of meat and skin, it's not impossible to strip it of everything except for its bones, and they can do it in just about 12 hours. And the only reason they leave the bones out is because it's mostly hardened calcium. Breaking it down is hard work, so ants just leave it alone. Plus, they don't need a lot of calcium since they don't have bones of their own. Instead of bones, they have an exoskeleton made up of tough but flexible chitin to keep everything intact. Number 8. Ants eat slug alive. As briefly mentioned, ants don't have lungs. Because they're small, they don't have enough room for a complex respiratory system, so they've evolved their own way of breathing. They have a series of holes called spiracles located on the sides of their bodies. Oxygen enters through these holes. A network of tubes connects these spiracles. As the ant moves, the tubes move as well, distributing the oxygen throughout the body. Carbon dioxide exits through the spiracles too. And do you know what other animal doesn't have a lung? Yep, this slug that's being eaten by ants while it's still alive. A slug breathes through its pneumostome, which is a hole in its mantle. Even if it's practically just a small space, it acts like a lung by pulling in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide. Sorta like a pair of bellows. This fact doesn't seem to help this slug though, but hey, that's the animal kingdom for you. It's always eat or be eaten. Number 7. Ants dismember cockroach. And since we're talking about ants trivia, did you catch that brief mention of ants not having ears? But this doesn't mean they're totally deaf and can't hear any sound at all. Ants pick up the vibrations in the ground through a sensitive organ located below their knees. Since they're so small, they can feel even the softest footfalls of a cockroach. This ability to hear through vibrations helps them find food or alert other ants about danger. They also rely on pheromones to communicate with each other. Pheromones are chemical signals that other ants can smell through their antennae. Like vibrations, pheromones tell other ants if there's danger ahead, or if their food's ready, or which way leads back to the nest. Other ants follow the pheromone trail that other workers secrete. This trail is one reason why ants seem to walk like soldiers marching in unison. And just like ants, cockroaches also don't have ears. They rely on their other senses to find food, and alert them when enemies are near. Too bad this cockroach's senses didn't pick up these ants. Just look at how efficiently the ants pull this cockroach apart. What did I tell you? Ants are soldiers. Number 6. Ants build bridge to invade wasp nest. Let's go back to Indiana Jones. You see this part where the ants chase the woman who runs up a tree by building a bridge with their bodies? Well, this one is based on facts. As proof, here's a video from Brazil that went viral years ago. It shows millions of ants that built a long bridge just to invade a wasp nest. If they were human, these ants would be top-notch engineers. Imagine how complex their calculations had to have been to develop this structure. It's like building the Millau Viaduct, the most complex bridge in the world. This is from a different video, but this is what happens when an army of ants invades a wasp nest. They swarm through all openings, kill adult wasps, and then carry off the larvae as food or slaves for others in the colony. But going back to the amazing bridge, it may look awesome, but it's still a menace to the house owner just as much as the wasp nest is. Actually, according to statistics, fire ants alone cause more than $3 billion worth of damage each year. This doesn't include odorous house ants that build nests in or around houses, or Argentine ants that invade pantries looking for sweets, or other ant species that sting and ruin properties. We're halfway through. Are you liking this video? Then please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel. Remember to hit the notification button for regular updates of our informative and exciting animal videos. Number 5. Ants decapitate bee by Beehive. In an ant colony, ants are divided into 3 classes: the queen, the workers, and the males. The queen and the males have wings. The workers, only the queen lays eggs. The males mostly live out their lives to mate with the queen. Once the queen grows to adulthood, she spends the rest of her life laying eggs. Well, except for Argentine ants. Argentine queens sometimes help to find food for the colony. Some species, like carpenter ants, have only one queen, while others have many, like pavement ants do. If it has only one queen and the queen dies, the colony survives for only a few months because the workers can't reproduce. It's very rare for a single queen colony to replace its queen. This social structure is similar to what happens in a bee colony. There's the important queen that lays eggs, the workers, and the drones, which are the equivalent of the male ants. Maybe it's because they're similar. These ants targeted this worker bee and beheaded it right beside its hive. Since they have strict roles, the other bees don't even stop and help their fellow worker. Number 4. Ants eat baby birds. Worker ants do everything. Young worker ants stay in the nest as bodyguards for the queen and caretakers of the eggs. Some of the adults defend the colony as soldiers and as construction workers and engineers of their anthills. Then there are those who attack other ant colonies or wasp nests to kidnap eggs and larvae that become their slaves. They eventually take over the invaded nest and make it their own. Most of the adult workers hunt, gather, or kill food. They'll walk up to 100 yards from their nest to find food. And one amazing fact is that all of these worker ants are female. Yes, movies like Ants and A Bug's Life lied to us. Soldiers and scientists and practically every ant that we see are female. These ants from different species that are devouring these baby birds are the ant equivalent of Wonder Woman's Themyscira tribe. Number 3. Ants strip the meat of a lizard. Mandibles, those elongated jaws that many insects have, are important tools for these animals. But its importance is tripled for ants. They use their mandibles for a variety of activities in their daily lives. They use it as their hands, just like what these ants are doing to this lizard. They use their mandibles to strip the scales and get to the meat of their prey, and to transport some of the food back to the nest. If the prey is smaller, they use their mandibles to hunt and decapitate their victims. And of course, they use these mandibles to defend themselves. That sting you feel when an ant bites you, that's their mandibles working full-time. And because it's such a useful and crucial tool for them, ants have developed different mandible shapes. Just look at some of them. Number 2. Ants versus live giant millipede. Ants live on every continent except for Antarctica and some remote islands. According to estimates, there are about 1 quadrillion ants in the world. It boggles the mind how many there are. They could fill continents. They don't really discriminate on what they eat, like this giant millipede. Besides other animals, they also go for sweets, oil, meat, seeds, and even vegetation. So far, the largest ant's nest that has ever been documented was a super colony that stretched over 3,700 miles. It was discovered in Argentina in the year 2000, and it had over 1 billion workers. Number 1. Ants attack and eat a grasshopper. One thing that ants are famous for is their super strength. An ant can easily lift anything that's 20 to 50 times its own body weight, depending on its species. The Asian weaver ant can actually lift something that's 100 times its own mass. In human terms, it's like this scene from Superman, where the boy who'll become Clark Kent picks up this truck. According to science, this strength comes from their size. Because they're so small, their muscles have a greater cross-sectional area relative to their body size. In physics terms, they produce more force per body mass. Yeah, we didn't get it either. But what we do get is even if they're super strong, one thing that ants really rely on is their colony. Remember that 1 quadrillion population mentioned earlier? That's actually one reason why ants can bravely attack a wasp nest or eat something as big as a lizard. They're never alone. Ants are social insects. See these 4 ants? Even if the grasshopper is small, they still attack it as a group. It's so easy to be brave when you're in a group. There you have it, our top 10 onslaughts of ants that devoured an animal. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel.